Good evening, Dolphin fans. Welcome to another episode of Finn's Talk Overtime on the Bandwagon. I am one of your co-hosts, Finn Stanza, who you were probably sick of me from last night. I'm still talking a little bit. With me always is one of my great mentors, Greg. Brett's supposed to be here, but Brett probably has an excuse, but he'll probably join at one point. If he doesn't make it on the show, he may never get back on the Overtime Bandwagon. But we'll take it from there. Greg, how you doing?
Still a little salty from last night. That was rough, man. Being in the stands and the energy in the crowd at the beginning of the game was phenomenal. And basically all the life was sucked out of us in about 10 minutes. It was brutal.
I actually, Greg, and I said it on the show last night. One of the people I felt bad for a lot of things that happened during the game, but I really pressed on it how bad I felt for the Miami Dolphin fans who spend their hard-earned money going to watch what they've been watching the first two football games, to see the amount of money you guys are spending at these concessions. I can't believe what the cost to go to concessions there. The fact that they don't treat their season ticket holders the way they should. It's just for what you guys have had to suffer through. I could feel your pain, and I wasn't even there. It's like, it's really something. You spend your hard-earned money, you take off your day to go down to a stadium, tailgate, have a good time, and this is what you're a witness to. One of the worst. I think it's one of the worst games I've seen in many, many years by this football team. But we're going to have a lot to talk about here. So guys, just don't forget to like and subscribe. The show is brought to you by Caneswear. Don't forget to check them out in Davie, Florida. You can also check them out online on caneswear.com. Also, the greatest show on surf. Check them out. They have a lot of new Legends merchandise. They're great sponsors of our show, so don't forget to check them out. So, Greg, as you mentioned, you were at the game. Yes. So I'm going to give you the floor, and surprisingly, I'm not going to talk for a little while because I want you I had the opportunity last night to express how I felt. So give me a feeling of what the experience was before the game, during the game, and what things were going on. And then after that, my compatriot, my real mentor, will have the chance to go for it also.
So, there he is.
Welcome, Bret. Welcome, Bret. So I missed you, Bret.
I miss you guys.
I missed you. By the way, I said to Bobby last night, I'm going to let Greg go, that I said, I'm going to do a show tomorrow night. I'm going to find people who want to do it. And I said to myself, I woke up in the morning, and when you texted me at 6:30 this morning, I go, you want to know what? I want to give you to the floor. You guys really, I want you guys, because we're going to break this down. There's so much to talk about here. And you guys really look at it from a more analytical perspective, less emotion than we do, even though I do think, Bret, I think that was the most emotion I've seen from you in a while the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I want to give you guys the floor. So, Greg, obviously you had the in-person perspective. Then I want Bret to give his perspective on what he sees going, and then we'll delve into the real specifics of the game.
Yep, and want to shout out to Steve and Raphael and Ben and Brandon. Hey, welcome, guys.
Yeah, one of them is my employee, and the other one is one of my great suppliers. They love supporting me. So go for it, Greg.
So no, the atmosphere going into the stadium last night was electric. It was really phenomenal. I had been to a night game in a while. Monday nights and Thursday nights are kind of crapshoots for me, being a season ticket holder, because I do work, all right, and I do travel a lot. So weekdays are a little bit iffy, but I was at the game. The atmosphere was electric. The crowd was buzzing at kickoff. It was really a phenomenal experience, all right? And then 5 plays into the game, okay, it's 3rd and 13 on your first drive, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle decide to take the play off. Okay. And
they got paid. Peace.
Yeah, it's the 5th play into the game, and Tyreek and Waddle just decide, we don't want to play this play. All right. So then the other wide receivers come in, and I basically said to the guy behind me, who I'm getting to know here pretty well over the first 2 weeks, I was like, how can they set this play out? And they snap the ball, interception. Okay. Surprising. Okay. But, I hear people say, all right, well, it wasn't really Tua's fault because it hit the guy in the chest. Yeah. Who? All right. Who's the guy? Okay. I didn't even know that number existed on the Dolphins.
Legend right? Grit DeBoo.
Yes. And I'm like, why are you throwing the ball to him? Okay. Anyway, interception, and basically the crowd just like, oh, okay, right. Defense actually plays pretty well in that opening drive.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a fourth down. All right, and last week on Steve's show when I was there, I talked about how poorly the linebackers for Miami played. Okay,
and
and
they heard you.
all right, so how poorly they played. Okay, so not to be outdone this week, Long just completely loses his guy. Cook, the running back,
People
on a
blamed
little.
it on motion because he got stuck in traffic. I'm like,
He's supposed to avoid the traffic.
yeah, that's.
He's
All
so
right.
bad in coverage, guys. He's
Or
one of the worst.
communicate.
Yes,
And
and it's
do a
just
man
like, what are you
slips.
doing? Okay, it wasn't a trick play. It wasn't nothing else. Hey, they did run funny motion though, and I guess Dolphins aren't used to that, so we got confused.
They don't ever see it in
Okay.
practice.
Never.
Yeah, all right.
Never.
And he's wide open for a touchdown. He basically walks in, catches the ball on the 20-yard line, and walks in. Doesn't even get touched.
A guy I wanted us to draft too.
Yeah, and it was just like, really? This is where we're going with this, okay? So, the next drive, we're like, okay, we got to answer. And they put together a pretty decent drive when it was all said and done, all right? And they score a touchdown. But, again, they're not doing anything downfield. Everything's behind the line of scrimmage. In that entire offensive series, I think there was only like one play past the 5 yards, all right? But then, okay, great, whatever, all right? But then the defense just kind of goes away, and all of a sudden it's 10-7. Then Tua throws another pick, okay, to Robbie Chosen. All right, hey,
What's he doing here?
let's just keep throwing the ball to guys who don't catch.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and he stopped on and the ball sailed over his head. Which
Well, yeah,
I want to talk about that later.
And then, so I'm at the game and I'm going, what in the hell is he thinking? Okay. I get home today and I rewatched the game on Amazon, and Kurt Herbstreit goes, what I shouldn't call him Kurt Herbstreit. I usually lead up with the idiot Kurt Herbstreit.
Hey,
right?
whoa, okay, listen.
Yeah, I know,
Okay,
I know.
Easy.
All right. He goes, well, it's obvious that he doesn't have timing and with Tua. Well, no kidding, because he's a practice squad player.
Exactly.
How many reps do you think he gets in practice? Right? But Tua, being Tua, says, I'm going to make him good. And he throws an interception. It's just like, what are you thinking? All right. And then my ultimate just rage last night, and basically it reinforced itself today. Okay. Buffalo was absolutely begging Miami to run the ball. Their DBs were so deep. Their two deep was so deep that it was ridiculous in a way. Okay. They were begging Miami to run the ball. All right. And I say this all the time as a bigger picture philosophy guy. There's a very fine line between taking what the defense is giving you, and the defense dictating to you. And basically, into the second possession, I was like, the defense is dictating what we play. All right, and what we do. And Miami did not have an answer. They were in a simple 2-deep safety practically the entire damn game. If you cannot beat a 2-deep safety in the NFL with play calling and with your quarterback just tearing that apart, you have no shot. And
there's multiple ways to do that too.
Oh no, there's a ton of different ways to do it.
You can go quick, methodically. There's so many different ways to do that.
To the point where, okay, and Steve and I talked about it last week on Jacksonville, okay? The outside thirds of the field between the numbers and the sideline are open with 2-deep safeties, okay? You just have to get to that point. There was only one pass attempt thrown in that area the entire night, and it was incomplete to Hill, who was wide open, because it's wide open area, but Tua just basically threw it out of bounds. Okay. And
Is that the one where he stepped out of bounds, or he caught? Isn't that the one he caught that he stepped out of bounds?
He caught it, but his second foot,
His
his
first
second
foot was
foot
off.
landed on bounds. Yeah, but it wasn't a great throw.
That was awful.
Right? You know, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Okay, HN ran the ball, the line blocked, and you know why? Because the Buffalo didn't care. All right, you had in my mind, okay, Mike McDaniel's game plan for that game yesterday, was the $100 million worth of extensions that you gave Tua, Hill, and Waddle. To hell with them. To hell with them. Your three best players supposedly on offense, screw it. We're going to give it to a Jag running back, HN, and he's going to carry the team. He touched the ball 30 times. He was targeted almost half the plays in the game for Miami.
And he was playing with an injury.
And that's your solution? You're going to give it to a mid running back and think he's going to carry the game? You're going to lose 9 out of 10 times doing this. Mm-hmm. And you think you're going to beat the Buffalo Bills, who you haven't beaten in basically a decade almost? All right? You think you're going to beat those guys with this game plan? Normally, I don't pick on game plans. Normally, I don't pick on play calling because there's a lot of things that go into that, right? But yesterday, I say it all the time, okay? And I probably said it on our first podcast together, Bret, all right? If the plan is flawed, no matter how well you execute it, you're never going to do anything with it, right? And yesterday was the first time in a very, very, very long time where I felt that plan was so flawed it didn't freaking matter. And that's kind of where I was. And by the time of the ridiculous interception return for a touchdown, and then the concussion, I was like, this game's been over since halftime.
Yeah. Neither
McDaniel or Tua has a clue today what the hell they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of it.
Before I let you go, Brett, I think I know we mentioned this before the game, but you didn't have a chance to say it yet, Greg. You were for me, my biggest, most frustrating moment of the game was those 3.5 minutes before the half.
Oh yes, no, yeah. Okay. I can go there too.
Go there before Brett goes.
All right.
Explain to me the rationale behind that.
I would guarantee all three of us are probably on the same wavelength with this one.
I actually was like, I was losing my mind.
Yes.
Your opponent has Madden. That's just what popped in my head.
Yeah. So I'm watching this maddening. All right. It's 24-10. Okay. Buffalo gets the ball back. All right. And the play before, okay, the great Long, who had a great game yesterday, completely ran to the wrong hole. Okay. For a 45
Deshaun Hand, Poor Deshaun Hand. He was triple covered there, Deshaun Hand. He was getting mauled.
Right. Well, yes, because Long was nowhere to be blocked. The other guys were like, well, I got to hit somebody. Okay, let's just hit this guy. All right. So he takes off. Poyer, all right. I don't know if he has a walker when he's on the sideline or not, but that dude's slow. I'm sorry. I watched him 2 weeks in a row. He's slow. Yeah. And then he takes an awful angle, and he's running. He takes the angle, and he goes, oh, crap. Yeah, no kidding you got ran by. Okay? He was a single high safety in that position, and he can't make a tackle. But anyway, I digress. We'll go back to what we originally were talking about, right? So the Dolphins get the ball back. They're down 24-10. They got 3.5 minutes, basically, and 3 timeouts. All right? And they have to score a touchdown because Buffalo gets the ball to start the second half. All right? And they run the dumbest, most inept 3.5 minute series I've ever seen. They gain like 40 yards. They use all 3 timeouts. They finally get to the 16-yard line with 12 seconds left and no timeouts. And they throw a pass and they're like, done. Let's kick a field goal. Yeah. I was like, oh, Jesus. I think it was actually 24-7 at that point. I don't even know.
Oh, it was 24-7.
Yeah. But I was like, you got to be kidding me. All right. You're down 17. You haven't done anything. And you're running to kill the clock. All right, and then okay, they're not calling timeout. They're not calling timeout. They're taking a huddle and things like that. They let 15 seconds go off the clock. The play clock's at like 25. All right, and then McDaniel goes timeout. What the hell?
Damn
right.
you, Bret.
It was like, what is going on? Are you kidding me? You're either trying to do this or you're not. And up till this point, you weren't. And then you're like, oh, I guess we ought to try now. And then it was just. So
when did you leave the game? Did you stay the whole game?
I left at the end of the third quarter.
Was the stadium emptied?
Everybody was leaving. Okay, it was like that at the end of the game. By the time I got to my car, there was like 7.5 minutes left to go in the fourth, and basically it was a sprint. There was traffic getting out. There was nobody in the stadium. But I was so pissed.
He got hurt. He got hurt.
Tua? With like 3 to 4 minutes in the third quarter.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, right. I thought it was the end of the third quarter. I didn't think it was in the fourth quarter. Okay.
Yeah, but I was so pissed last night that I was driving home. I wasn't staying. I checked into my hotel. I was like, I'm up. I'm going to listen to Evan and Bobby. I'm going to be pissed. I'll be able to make it home. We hadn't left the parking lot. My wife goes, "We're going to the hotel because you're in no condition to drive." Okay. All right.
Well, McDaniel wasn't in any position to coach, which we'll talk about.
DWA, driving while angry.
Yes,
in Florida.
In Florida.
With those Miami-Dade police officers up your butt.
But yeah, no, it was brutal.
By the way, that cop, has been suspended 6 times.
Yeah,
6 times.
There's a whole thing about that. I won't touch it. But
so Bret, we'll get obviously to the other key parts of the game, but tell me, did you watch the game live?
Oh yeah, I did. After I hung out with you guys, chatting with you guys through the show, I got the kids to bed. I just watched it, and I was watching it. I was actually this whole season, I've told people I'm not going to do this whole this and that. And two is I'm just watch the season. Let's see what happens. And I was giving to it. He had it, like Greg said, that drive they scored on. They had a fantastic drive.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that. I was like, hey, that was a heck of a drive. It was methodical. Yeah, it took some time to get down there, but hey, you're not going to quick strike all the time. Fantastic. I love that drive. It's complete, and they got behind the sticks on that drive just like last week. And they came back, still scored. Fantastic. Good effort. That's about all we saw. But it was like last year, we see a couple good drives, and that's it. And it's like what the offense couldn't get anything going. And I was bad. Like Greg said, seeing Tyreek just check himself out, and then the next play was the interception. I saw Tyreek on the thing just flagging. I'm like, why is he coming out? And, of course, because we rely on injury-prone players, Odell Beckham, who's not ready. We got Malik Washington banged up. Craycraft got hurt. So, of course, we're injured already. So, we're cutting the depth at the bottom. And I don't know how much Malik Washington's actually hurt. But then you got Izukama that we drafted. Where's he at? So, it's like you got all these players and they're hurt. Oh, so big surprise there. Chris Greer's team is injured. Weird. And, again, Greg said, the defense – they had some good series. They had some bad series. Brooks actually had a really good series. They even mentioned I was one of the best series for a linebacker I've seen in Miami in a long while between a coverage and a run stop standpoint. And then that just went to I don't know. I don't know honestly what to say there. But I feel like Brooks is getting left out to dry a lot because Long runs into the wrong gaps. Because Long, he's like a dog. Once he gets going, you're not stopping him, and he goes in the wrong direction a lot. I've noticed that. And, he flies around on week 1 to tell him, oh, he's been flying around. I'm like, yeah, but in the wrong places often. And he's guessing a lot. It's not instinctive. He's guessing.
And he's guessing, but he's making a lot of tackles. Yeah, down the field.
Right.
Right? And it's like, he's a linebacker. He's supposed to make tackles. Right? But they're not supposed to be for 7-8 yard gains. Or better yet, just run through the wrong hole, leave a wide open gash. All right. And your safeties are like, what the hell? All right. And it's basically gone. Okay. It's just 2 weeks in a row he's done that.
Yeah.
I spoke about this last night. I spoke about this. I'll talk about it after.
And why is everyone talking about? What you say? Everybody being paid?
No, like I said last night, one of my main comments was, sorry, I'll bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, why don't talk about why people checked out with 8 minutes left? If you noticed, with 8 minutes left, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were on the bench laughing and telling jokes, while poor Achane was getting himself killed. Like, at least if you're going to take people out. But then all of a sudden you let them out to dry.
When you got a blowout game, I have no problem taking your starters out, putting backups in, like, who cares, whatever. You just get them the reps, let's go. But, I don't like the attitude that this team has, but that's what McDaniel breeds. And we'll get to that in a little bit here. But as far as watching the game goes, Greg pretty much hit on everything. And the interceptions at Chosen, that proves to me that Tua just throws the spots when he decides where to throw it, because the ball went over Chosen's head. Chosen came back. So if it was a choice route or he ran, he's not throwing where Chosen's going. And the ball sailed over and it was nowhere near where even when Chosen slipped, he was still coming back and the ball was going like he was a ways. And then the pass to Tyreek downfield, there's bracket coverage, the corners on the outside and the safeties behind him. Tyreek's technically open. If you throw a good pass, it's a tough pass. If you throw it right, it's touchdown, but again, it's outside the hashes. Why? Tyreek's running up the hashes, throw it down a railroad, right? I mean, that's
he was not accurate last night.
No, but he hasn't been.
No, he hasn't been accurate.
And it's because he's panicking in the pocket. Lance Zierlein, who's one of my favorite draft analysts, pointed this out about Tua in college, that he had spotty pocket cover, spotty when stepping up in the pocket and sliding in the pocket. He was inconsistent with pressure in his face. He was also inconsistent anticipation and accuracy when he knew he was going to take a hit, which is what we were seeing a lot. And the other aspect was balls. He tends to have receivers cut their route or become inaccurate if he faces pressure. All that's true. And all of that is just football. The whole people talk about the offensive line wasn't good. No, the offensive line is not great. We have a lot of patty cake offensive linemen that will get their lunch money taken all the time. I've been saying this for the last few years, that we have a team that gets bullied easy, but it's also the mentality of the coaching staff. Like, we keep bringing in these mentalities to baby shit. Somebody has told me that used to write or do a show for the team years ago. He had told me, like, McDaniel's a babysitter for Tua. That he was brought in to make Chris Greer, to save Chris Greer's job and to save Tua, and it's all backfired. And McDaniel hitched his wagon to this, and I think he's gonna end up losing his job for it. But I think he could be a good head coach later on. I don't think he's dumb by any means, but he's gonna have to learn a lot from this.
When he hitched his wagon to Tua's extension, and then he got extended, okay. If you listen to his post-game press conference yesterday, he sounded like a man lost.
He did.
He couldn't put 5-6 words together.
He wasn't coherent. He wasn't coherent.
All right. I don't care what people think. He's got this cool laid back look or whatever. He looks disheveled.
Yeah.
Okay.
He looked during the game, and I think he quit. I honestly
said that last night, Brett. He quit.
And I didn't get to talk to you guys then. He quit. He knew, like, not to cut you off, Greg, but he knew, like, everything we're doing, Tua's not seeing or doing, and he can't do it. And, like, McDaniel hit that realization, like, shit, Tua can't do it. I have to run the ball. And that's when I think everything went to hell.
Again, Buffalo wanted them to run the ball.
Yeah.
They wanted to run. So here's the thing about defense, okay? Defense can give up runs, all right? You can give up 5 yards, then 7 yards and a first down, then 4 yards, then 8 yards for a first down. But then all you have to do is stop them once. Make them go behind the chains, okay? A negative 2 yard run. You do a run blitz or something like that, right? You put that team behind the chains, and then you can bring Von Miller back on the field, okay? And Von Miller basically is Von Miller. He's a future Hall of Famer.
He made Austin Jackson look like Austin Jackson of year one.
Okay? You put him, Espinoza, and
Ed Oliver.
the
Oliver?
91.
Ed Oliver.
Ed
Yeah,
Oliver.
Ed
it's
Oliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are three guys who could rush a passer. Okay.
Ed
And
Oliver's insane, by the way. He was amazing last night.
no, he's a very good player.
Yeah.
You know.
All three of those guys have violent hands.
Yeah.
All right. But again, all right, you're running the football, okay? In a series in the first half. You're running the football. You get 2 first downs. You haven't thrown the ball yet. All right. It's 3rd and 1. You give it to Ingold, okay, because he got one earlier. So I guess he's always going to get one now. All right. And he gets tackled. All right. Now it's 4th and 3. You go for it on 4th and 3 and you go empty. You haven't thrown a pass the entire series. It's 4th and 3. You decide to go empty. What are you doing? All right. I don't mind if you throw the ball there, but at least give them an idea that you might run.
You're right, freshman.
You know, and it's just it's annoying, and it got to the point yesterday, and especially in the post game press conference with McDaniel. I'm just tired of it. You know,
Can I ask you an honest question, Greg? I've been wanting to ask you this. You've coached football.
Yes.
Yes, it was a sweet moment, and people are saying how sweet it was. I actually was on the opposite end of it yesterday. When I saw I go, did he just kiss him on the forehead? I go, did he just basically do what me and Bret do every night and put our kids to bed? This is football. Because the moment he did that, I said to myself, you're doing that to one player. You would never do that to Tyreek. You would never do that to any other 52 players on this roster. I understand he's your guy, but you basically just said, this is my favorite person in the world. And this is not football. This is kitty corner. This is daycare. And I like I said, I like McDaniel as a person, but it was absolutely like the most unfootball-like moment in my life. And we're playing a football game. Josh Allen at the end
hang
of the
on.
game,
Cap might be right. That might have been the kiss of death. Like, you broke my heart.
No, by the way,
Or the Godfather.
I will give credit to Buffalo Bills. They've raised over $16,000 as of this afternoon for one of Tua's foundational charities. They donated a lot of money to one of his charities.
That's cool.
In the end, it's a football game. Josh Allen said beautiful things about Tua, but during the game, it's a freaking football game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a football game. So in the end, as a coach, if you coach football, imagine if you kissed one of your players, you'd be fired.
Yeah,
I'd be considered harassment, right?
So I didn't see it on the field.
I did.
Okay, but I saw it on the telecast, and they made a point of it on the telecast, and I heard it last night in the commentary, and then this morning before I watched the game, and I was like, did he really do that? He couldn't have done that. All right, I watched it today, and I'm like, God, what is he doing? All right. You can't.
He was crying.
So, as a coach, okay, you have different rules for different players. You know who you can get on and who you can bitch out and who you gotta basically get motivated with some tender love. Let's put it that way, right? I mean, not every player, you can't treat them all the same because they all react differently. It's your job to know that of your players, but you can't do that. All right, you can't, especially in a game. All right, you got other things going on, and one of the things he said in his post game, press conference, he's like, I got all of these people depending on me. All right, they're looking at me for this and that, and I think he's cracked. All right, I mean, you got to stand up and you got to say, all right, we got to kick ass. We got to do something here. All right. It's not the woe is me. All these people are depending on me and looking at me and all of this stuff. What? Yeah, because you're the head coach of a football team. You're the foreperson, the spokesperson, the person, the person that the team is, front and center, relying on. All right. And you're dressed like a hobo. I'm sorry. Okay. You find a razor, shave, get a haircut. Okay. You know, you're the face of a franchise of $1 billion organization, and you look like this. Look at Shanahan. Shanahan doesn't look like that. You know, the
McVay
coach
doesn't look like that.
McVay doesn't look like that. The guy in Green Bay doesn't look like that. All
Zach
right,
Taylor doesn't look like that.
correct. All
Not
right,
even Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell looks a little more like.
correct.
Guys,
By the way, do you think Dan
Bill
Campbell?
Belichick. Oh wait, he hasn't earned that side of their mind.
By the way,
No,
by the way, can you imagine if Dan Campbell was our coach last night? There would have been fight to the end.
well, I'm not a fan of Dan Campbell.
No, I'm saying
but
the moxie.
I'm just
I'm saying the
saying, yes.
not his coaching. The moxie. He never would have given up.
Dang it, Josh.
He
Wiki.
would've-
He's gonna get me started.
We're not there yet. So by the way, Greg, while you're here, I want to ask
Yeah.
you a question because we're talking about them, and I want to give both of you. No one,
Yes.
no, because I still have the videos from my mentor over here about McDaniel. Is McDaniel the reason the key reason why, not on the executive, for the key reason why in these first two games we have struggled? Is he one of the main reasons why we're playing as porous as possible? Because Bret, you didn't hear me say this stat. The last 8 teams that we have faced that have made the playoffs, we have lost by 121 points. 121 points.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I want you both to take the time because we're going to talk about Greer, we're going to talk about Tua, we're going to talk to me about Mike McDaniel. What is going on with this guy?
All right, do you mind if I jump on that one?
No, go ahead.
So I'm probably going to be different a little bit with Greg here, but I know where Greg's coming from at the same time. The first thing that fans like to do is blame coaching, play calling, and everything else. And like Greg pointed out, fans, it's his play calling. He doesn't run enough. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And they saw what happens when you run the ball too much. Defense is like, go ahead. You're not giving your best weapons the ball. Go ahead. Hit us with it. Yeah, but Achane, well, first of all, the offensive line is not good enough to make Achane look even better. And Achane is not that great of an inside runner. There's space to run, like Greg said. Run. They don't care because they're just going to end up coming up with a stop. You're not going to score a lot of points that way. Fine. But McDaniel is different this year. I think he was very creative last year. Greg told me when we interviewed McDaniel, we talked about this for OC when we were rumored to interview before Shanahan blocked it. Greg talked about the Shanahan offense is very gimmicky. It can work, but a lot of gimmicks, a lot of motions, a lot of smoke and mirrors. At the end of the day, you got to play. Aaron Rodgers disliked the West Coast or that offense because he liked the West Coast offense because you could hit a rhythm. But when he got into LaFleur's offense, it was like, can we just stop with the motion and just call a freaking play? And he hated the motion to 2-minute warning. And that's where him and LaFleur ended up butting heads because he just wanted to play. Lo and behold, Greg and I talked about it. Greg had we talked and he actually opened my eyes to well, when you're in a 2-minute warning, you don't have time to do motions and this and that. You line up and play. And we are seeing the Dolphins having to line up and play the last 2 weeks, and the players aren't getting it done on the field either. And from what I'm seeing, the execution isn't there from a player perspective. Our best weapons have been open. Jonnu Smith, people complaining, well, he's not getting used that much. No, Tua's not using him that much. The looks are there. Whether the play calls are focused on him there or not, the looks were there. Jonnu's been open. Tua's not been seeing them. Tua's not played well at all. Tua's not been a good quarterback. And it should be no surprise to people if you really watched him. And to me, McDaniel has had no answer since that cheat motion has taken from his arsenal. It's like he knows this is his box that he has Tua in, or that he could run with Tua, and he's got this whole playbook on the outside, but this is all he could run. And then defense take that away. It's like I have no answer. And because he hitched his wagon to Tua and put him for the extension, that's his fault. And he sinks with the ship. I don't think he's a terrible coach, but it's on him now. This is what he wanted. He said that he could improve it, and he didn't, and he had nowhere to go. He had no answers for how do I continue this. It was, hey, we caught lightning in a bottle last year when we went all in, and I can't. And what pisses me off probably the most is that him and Greer both said, well, this is a little bit of a transition year. Kind of trying to save their jobs. Well, if things go south, we're transitioning. We went all in last year, but we're not going to tell you that. We went all in, so we're transitioning this year to maybe we can go all in 25. But to me, it's his fault in the sense that this is what he wanted, and he has no answer when everything's taken away. And he has not responded all that well to it either.
Greg?
Yeah, and I'll say going back to the last 3 or 4 games last year, all right, the last 6 games or so. I mean, from an NFL defensive perspective, all right, it's been pretty vanilla. The last, these last 2 games, all right, you had, at Jacksonville, let's just say, they played a lot of man with single high or double high safety. The little wrinkle that they threw in is what I call they had a robber, okay, and by robber, you got 5 people who could go out on offense. There's usually 7 in coverage. If you're playing man, you got 5 people covering, and you got 2 people playing zone. All right, and it's what do you do with those 2 people, okay? And Jacksonville was in my opinion robbing the inside. They had one guy looking up, and through film study and stuff like that, they were making some pretty educated guesses as to which side they were going to throw to, and basically taking care of that. But that's not that unusual. It's not like an exotic defense, okay? Buffalo did nothing yesterday, other than just basically back off, and basically say, okay, we're going to press some of your guys, but we're going to give them all deep help, okay? And the issue that I'm having right now with McDaniel, okay, is the only real wrinkle that they've thrown into the offense is basically an outlet, okay? That's why Achane has, 15 catches over the first 2 weeks, okay? That's
He's great for fantasy football.
Yes, and I haven't looked at the stats so much this game, but last game there were as many passes attempted to wide receivers as there were to running backs and tight ends.
Yeah.
When did that happen last year? It never did. Okay, because this is a wide receiver driven offense, and he can't figure out a way to get the wide receivers the football. And there are holes in the field to say, this is where you should be going. And we're not running routes there. Okay. That's play calling. Okay. That's play calling. That's not on Tua. Okay. What's on Tua is he keeps looking at covered receivers. Okay.
With no separation.
Well, with no separation, but he knows he should know they're going to be covered.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You see what the defense is doing. All right. Don't make that your first look. All right. And he is so quick to get to his check down right now that there's really nothing vertical in this offense. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and there's no vertical threat. How can that be possible?
Okay. He's overthrowing Tyreek.
So
Yes.
I want to say this real quick, Greg. I think Tua's limitations is why. Whether it's a right thing or wrong thing to do as a head coach, because this is the quarterback you picked, that you accept the limitations that you put on your offense by having him as a quarterback. And I hate to say it, but Tua really handicaps this offense in a major way.
No, and that's where I was going with this. All right.
Oh, sorry.
No. Yeah, but I was hoping that there was going to be something more from McDaniel in this offense than what I've seen so far. Okay. All right, dude. Because essentially a blueprint was made last year in the last 3 or 4 games. It's carried over to this year. It's make Tua throw outside. All right. And there's really not been anything done to correct the problem. Okay, we're not scoring points. Okay, Achane's looking great from a fantasy perspective, but as a team, you're not scoring points.
Right? But that's been us since the last 8 weeks of last season. It was the same thing.
Okay,
frustrating.
But I also think that's part of what McDaniel's issue is right now. He looks and sounds lost because he knows what he needs to do. All right. any smart football coach, especially in the NFL, knows how to beat this stuff. But if your players can't execute it, you're kind of stuck. All right. And he keeps going to the same well over and over and over again, hoping that something breaks. And and you know, there are smart defensive coaches too.
Yeah.
We're just saying,
Sean McDermott's one of them. He's a brilliant guy.
He did not have Bernard. He did not have Tyron Johnson. He was depleted on defense, and
he didn't have Matt Milano.
didn't have Matt Milano.
Okay.
But the crazy part about last night,
Dude, they let their best linebacker walk
guys,
too.
they had two guys. The Buffalo Bills. People say the defense was a little porous at different times. We only in that craziness of a game, we only gave up 247 yards of offense. The reason why is McDaniel and Tua gave them such good field position. They were always starting off past the 50. They only need 250 yards to score 31 points.
Well, and they scored 14 points, one without ever having the ball. It was an interception return for a touchdown, and one was a one-play drive for 40 some odd yards. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, Miami ran 70 some odd plays to 45 last night. Miami had the ball 36 minutes to 23. Okay. Miami ran the ball. Miami's running backs had 100 yards rushing through 3 quarters last night. Okay. And the offense sucked.
Yep.
All right. The offense sucked.
Killing me.
All of the people who have said, well, Miami needs to run the ball more. Miami needs to run the ball more. Well, they did, and they suck at it. Okay. All right.
Which is frustrating in this system because the system is not that hard to run.
He was a running game coordinator.
Well, he was always a wide receivers coach, so he's always been I think they moved him to run game coordinator to get him balance in his coaching repertoire. That's just my opinion. But
and I'm just going to throw this out here, okay? Because we haven't talked in a while, right? I had a guy tell me today, all right, a friend of mine, who if I could have leapt through my cell phone and strangled, I would have. And he's a friend of mine, all right? He came up and he goes, if Miami doesn't need a great running back if they had a better offensive line. He goes, look at San Francisco on Monday night. All right, look how well that third string running back ran for San Francisco Monday night. And I'm like, you know what Monday night showed us? That third string running back cost his team probably on the average of 12 to 16 points. Because if Christian McCaffrey got those touches, they probably would have scored 4 more touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. All right?
You're not wrong.
All right? That's the difference between running backs. And I like Achane. Okay? I do. But he's mid. He's a jag.
But McCaffrey's also an example of why I don't want Achane touching the ball 30 times every game.
Well, yeah.
Because they use the hell out of McCaffrey. And I think McCaffrey's a stud running back, fantastic. But he's always so big, and he's only going to take those hits. And people talk about, well, Achane should be taking these hits and screens. Look, I don't want Achane to touch the ball more than 15 times at most every week. And that's catches and runs, just like you said, Greg, because he's not going to hold up to it.
No, he's not. But
not a lot of backs do anymore, anyway.
But the point is the position of running back matters. If you're going, you have to have a difference maker at that position to be good. And especially if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, all right, or Jake or Allen or these guys that can take care of a game. Because again, Buffalo, every time Achane touched the ball, Buffalo was clapping. All right. I mean, if you would have had a sideline camera just focused on the defensive coordinator for Buffalo, I bet every time he handed the ball off, he was laughing.
Yeah.
Because it was that obvious that's what they wanted.
And people wanted a run game. People talk about how Buffalo needs a run game. They got a run game. Look what it's done for them. Buffalo had a run game. They've always been exceptionally well in offense because of Josh Allen, and you see what he does. And Joe Brady ended up balancing their attack just a little bit to give Josh Allen some help, a break from having to run the ball so many times and basically be their entire
hardly
offense.
ran
Where
last night.
he's not going to get hurt now. Like he's trying to save Josh Allen from getting destroyed and beat up, which is great. But you look, they still throw a lot more than they run. But I know they ran the ball a lot against us, but that's because they had big chunks against us and it was easy.
Excuse
And
me,
they imposed
that's
their
not true.
will.
They had that big run. Besides that, they had about 30-something yards of running. Like they hardly ran. It was just big plays, like you said. It was one or two big plays.
Sorry, it had chunk plays against us.
Yeah,
But
chunk plays. Yeah,
but they imposed their will, and
but they didn't play well.
They
wanted us to beat them. They wanted us to beat them.
I swear to God. All right, and I said this during the game. I'm like, Buffalo's playing like shit.
Yeah.
All right, on offense, and I really thought that. Okay, but all right. I listened to a bunch of stuff on the drive up from Miami to Orlando this morning, and I listened to part of the Joe Rose show. All right, he had the best line of the day. All right, he said. He said Allen didn't have to take a shower after the game because he wasn't touched, he wasn't dirty. All he did was hand the ball off. He threw for 130 yards or whatever. He ran for this. He's like he didn't even have to take a shower.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I will say this too: as humid as last night was, what a miserable night it was, humidity wise. Oh my God!
It was like 80-something%. My wife and I looked at each other like, "Oh God!"
Oh my God! Everybody was just sweaty and it was just.
I was in Texas back in August, and everybody said, "Oh, it's gonna be hot down there." I'm like, I did basic training in June and July down there, and it's so much different than humid heat. I would take that dry heat all day.
Yeah, me too. Dry heat so much easier. But let me ask you something. I said this last night. I believe that Tua, if he came back, would benefit from not being with McDaniel, and I think McDaniel would benefit from not being with Tua because I think it's a toxic relationship. It's like I feel that they're now at the point where they're actually hurting each other versus helping each other because. And I actually made the comment about, and we'll talk about the quarterbacks after, that I think that the best thing that could happen to McDaniel was to change things up because as long as he has Tua as his quarterback, he's going to stay within this he's now become very uncreative, very boring, very vanilla offense that's not doing anything, and you're not going to be able to use your star players.
I feel like it's more. I mean, Daniel's going to have to learn to not take this so personal and be so emotionally attached to guys because this is a business, and players say it all the time. It's a business. It does sometimes don't work out. You move on, and it's not like a personal thing to say, "Hey, man, I got to cut you." It's not that. It's not like right now when we're talking negative about David Long. It's not like we think he's this most terrible linebacker you've ever seen. Clearly, he's one of the best in the world because he's made it to the NFL, plays on an NFL team. So you're not saying they're like horrible athletes, but once you get to that level, it starts to like tighten up. And sometimes coaches, it feels like they have a hard time either admitting they were wrong or removing that emotional connection. And I get it. It's hard. Like, hey, I built a bomb this kid. But like at some point your job becomes attached and the whole point of it is to win. So sometimes you got to move on. I don't really feel like McVay did this with golf to this point, to this level. No. But I don't feel like he was forced to. I think it was kind of like, hey, can you fix it? Okay, no. All right, well, can we start over or can we do something else? And that's what they did.
Yeah. First off, Freshman, Chris, 72 undefeated. Thanks for all the comments.
But no, this is your favorite comment. This will be your favorite comment. This one right here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wayne. I appreciate you, brother.
That's not what other people say. The Tua stands. And wait, no, they're probably good. They've been quiet. It's crickets.
But I think we're rapidly approaching the point of Tua and McDaniel with each other hitting their ceiling, if we haven't hit it already. And I've been trying to figure out when the tide's going to turn. All right. I was thinking that they probably had another year this year, but if Tua's hurt and he's not going to be coming in, it might go into next year as well. But there's going to be a breakup here. All right. Somewhere there's going to be a breakup. Because again, I think McDaniel is to the point where he doesn't have answers. and I'm actually surprised by that being only the second game of the year. It's really kind of glaring in a way how an offense with this much wide receiver talent is failing to get the ball to the wide receivers.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by it, to be honest with you.
And
It doesn't
I'm
shock
curious
me.
I'm really curious to see how Tyreek's going to start handling this adversity because he's never been a part of a losing team in the NFL, and I'm really curious to see how guys start
He
handling
was laughing
this
last
adversity.
night.
And but I honestly I'm questioning Tyreek's I'm questioning his stamina. I'm questioning his is he in shape? You know, like conditioning. Is he actually because like he keeps pulling himself out of games? Is it muscle?
Oh, when he
tightness?
missed that ball, he'd get himself out of the game. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, like
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on? Is he frustrated or what? I see that a lot. And then the other aspect too, like you said, like if there a breakup's coming. Now I was of the mindset like 24, they're safe. They protect themselves transition year, unless things go way south. Which I mean, but like now I'm starting to think, you know, like I thought 25 was like, all right, that's where you better shit or get off the pot. But now I'm thinking, well, Ross did not look too happy. Greer even kind of looked like he didn't want when they showed those two. He
Dude,
didn't.
Rear looked ridiculous.
Yeah, Greer kind of looked like almost like did one of these because he kind of looked over, saw he was on TV, kind of like, yeah, no, I don't
No,
want to look
because you know
anymore.
what his defining moment was? We'll talk about this because I want to talk about Tua after, and I want to talk about. Let's talk about the offensive
By
line.
the way, I really hope Tua is okay because
Yeah, we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about
that
it at the end.
worried me a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the end. I'm saving that for the end. The offensive line. My defining moment in the offensive line was the moment Kendall Lamb and Lester Cotton got into the game. And I go to myself, when they both got mauled in the exact same play on that fourth down, I said, in our offensive territory, I go to myself, the fact when he said to the media, we know what you guys are saying again and again, we believe in this group, they're tight. You get your wagon to Teron Armstead, who didn't even make it through 1.5 games this season because you didn't let him practice all year. He's probably completely out of shape because he had no reps until the start of the season. Oh, let's just rest him because it's basically load management. Lester Cotton, I thought Robert Jones was beyond the word deplorable. Lester Cotton was ridiculous. Kendall Lamb looked completely unprepared. Aaron Brewer was not terrible. Like he was actually Reichenberg did what he had to do, but Austin Jackson literally without Teron Armstead. In the moment Teron Armstead, I realized this last night. I don't know if you disagree. The masking of Austin Jackson was Teron Armstead. The moment Teron Armstead left that game, Austin Jackson went crazy. He was awful. He got 10 times worse.
Robert Hunt was his masking. Robert Hunt was the masking for Austin Jackson.
Yeah, but yeah, he didn't help. Let me ask you something. What is, because there's a lot of teams that don't have great offensive lines. Like Derrick Henry didn't have one in Tennessee. So what? And they opened up, shockingly enough, because they did, like you said last night, before Tua got hurt, they opened on that play. The offensive line pushed the defense and left the hole. But what is wrong fundamentally with these players? Because they are NFL players. They were drafted. But like, what is it with this offensive line? Why is it so deplorable? Like, why is it so bad? Is it purely talent, or is it purely just the overall concept of the offense just makes it look worse?
Oh my bad. I'm gonna let Greg take that one because he knows a lot about the offensive line.
Yeah, well, I'm leaving that. I just want to get that.
So, all right. One, there's not a good offensive line in the NFL, in my opinion. I don't think there is one. I don't think any team has 5 good offensive linemen on the whole roster.
People thought the Eagles did. People thought the Eagles did last year.
People thought the Eagles did, but they weren't.
No.
All right. 2 years ago, they last night on the telecast. All right, I watched it today. They say, well, Buffalo played all 5 offensive linemen for basically the entire year last year. They didn't get anybody injured.
Yeah, they're the only team. I think they brought that up a lot.
Okay, but there's not enough good offensive linemen in the league to start, let alone be backups. Okay, so you're not going to find quality backups. If they were a quality backup, they'd be starting.
Yeah.
All right. So, but what you have to do is when you get the backups in the game, you got to manage it. Okay. And Miami, the Dolphins don't manage the game. All right. Tua doesn't manage every play on the field. All right. Thinking that he's got backups in there. All right. He doesn't manage the offensive line when they're backups. He doesn't manage the wide receivers. Otherwise, he wouldn't be throwing to Chosen or the other guy. I still don't even know the other guy's name that hit him in it. All right.
Grant DeBose.
Yeah, that was the guy we
Bobo.
brought in right before the.
Because
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur
Okay.
told McDaniel he was good. He couldn't make his own roster.
But you got to manage that. You got to know who's on the field with you and expect what's going on. And if you got a backup tackle that's blocking Von Miller or whoever, you got to anticipate that you're going to get pressure, and you better get your number one read right. Okay. The problem with it is McDaniel doesn't change the play calling, and Tua doesn't adapt, and everything looks just worse than it is. All right, and it's really frustrating for me because I know they're well coached. Okay, I know Chris Forster's good. All right, he's a good old line coach.
Well, he's in San Fran.
You mean Butch Berry? You mean Butch Berry?
Yeah.
Butch Berry. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Butch
but Coach
Berry.
Lem is still there. Coach Lem's been there forever.
Yeah. So he's a good coach. They're well coached.
Yeah.
All right. But they keep getting put into positions where they're going to basically fail in a way. All right. Quit going empty. All right. Have a tight end. Bring a 6 offensive lineman in every now and then if you're worried about pass protecting. All right. Do something a little bit different. All right. Because I'll tell you what, the other thing that's been readily apparent after 2 weeks is the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends can't block worth a damn. All right. So there are some blocking issues within this system right now, but I can't blame it on the O-line. I just can't. There are plays to be made that aren't being made. None of the turnovers were on the O-line. Okay, they actually got some really good push up the middle for 3 quarters. Okay, most of Achan's big runs were up the middle. All right. Now, part of that has to do with the defense just saying, run it here. Okay. I'll admit it, but it's not like they were embarrassment last night until essentially Armstead and we got a backup with it's actually probably our 3rd left guard and our backup tackle in. And that's what's going to happen.
And real quick on that, I think I feel like what Greg is saying, a lot of people get upset about it, how he says that. Like, he's not saying the offensive line is really talented and a good offensive line is. He's saying that it's not what's holding the offense back. I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying, right, Greg?
Yeah.
So
it's not.
And could it be better? Yes. The talent along the offensive line. I feel like the biggest problem with our offensive line is a lot of them have bad hand placements and terrible footwork.
2 penny penalties. Like, the penalties are unbelievable.
They're not disciplined.
The
Although Eichenberg
crazy.
saved us from having a false start, it made the play not count. So that fumble he saved us.
Thank you, Liam.
But that's,
Thank you, Liam.
I was like, I think he just saved us. Yeah. And I was in the chat, and everyone was like, Liam knew. But
he went to Notre Dame.
It's to Greg's point. It's if you look around the NFL, like the offensive line, you have guys that like change teams a lot and shuffle around, and it's been happening a lot. Where like you remember the Cowboys' great offensive line they had for a while. And I'm talking the 90s, I'm talking about the 2000s, right? I'm talking late 2000s. When they had Zach Martin and they had I forgot everybody's name now.
Leo Collins and
yeah. They had one hell of an offensive line, right?
Yeah, it's like the group there.
That whole thing. And look how long it lasted. Not long at all.
No.
Right? So
and they didn't win anything with it, and actually that offensive line basically helped inform my opinion of offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because one year one year they went 12-4. All right. Tony Romo was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Des Bryant was one of the top wide receivers in the league, and they had the league's leading rusher. Okay.
What about me?
Thanks for
All right.
jumping on. I appreciate
What
you.
about me? What about Greg? I'm going to remember this. I'm not
Yeah,
watching No
exactly.
Holds Bar tomorrow.
Yeah, Real Talk Wrestling, Sea Devil. Thanks everybody. But that was the year before, and then
This
they
guy
let
never sees me.
I think it was DeMarco Murray. They let him go to Philadelphia. Des Bryant gets hurt. Tony Romo gets hurt, and they go 5-11 with the exact same offensive line. And that's like, so the offensive line doesn't do anything. It doesn't determine who if you win or
Thanks
lose.
much.
You know, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's all about the skill positions, and that's what it is. And right now, the problem in Miami isn't the offensive line; is they can't figure out how to get their best two skill position players the ball.
Mhm.
For them to have what 5 or 6 catches yesterday for 60 yards is ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And it looked like the game plan was intentional to feed H-Han.
Yeah.
You're depriving the number one player in the NFL, supposedly, the ball to give it to H-Han, who, again, is a middle of the road running back. Really?
Yeah.
That was our thought yesterday.
And he's an explosive receiving back, and he's a solid weapon as a receiver. So when you say mid, people are going to get upset. As a runner, he's not someone that you want to rely on as a heavy runner.
No.
At all.
Exactly. But
I just want to clarify that.
the difference is when A-Chain has the ball, catches the ball, or whatever, there's like 11 people on defense that can tackle him.
Mhm.
When Hill catches the ball at the safety or linebacker level, there's 2 or 3. Okay,
Yeah,
and the defense is going to take that all day, every day.
Mhm.
And the fact that he had almost 30 touches yesterday. Really,
It's crazy.
you're giving Devon H-Han 30 touches
You're going to get him killed.
against Buffalo. Your main guy, and then people are actually sitting back and surprised that we got our asses handed to us.
Yeah.
Because again, a bad plan, no matter how well you execute it, you're not going to do well.
Well,
because the plan sucks.
And but then again, at the same time, I don't care how good our plan was. I don't think it was going to work anyway because we just don't have the talent overall to fully compete with Buffalo. And a lot of people are going to look to the receivers that we have, which is great. But to me, the talent at quarterback, the talent at running back, definitely the talent at tight end or lack thereof, and the talent at linebacker again. Lack of consistent pass rushers outside of Phillips, so no impact players at the safety positions. We just don't have the roster to compete. And I know a lot of people like the names of Fuller and Ramsey, and that to me that scramble was not on Ramsey as a
no. How do you
expect?
I was going to get there. How do you expect a defensive player whose back is turned? You give Allen. I said you have to keep Allen inside the numbers. If you give Allen that much time, he is going to exhaust the cornerback to the point of exhaustion. Because the guy's running backwards, his back turned. The Ramsey was given no chance on that play.
Brent Vincent said that's what running quarterbacks do. They stress your team. They put that pressure on your team, and Hollow got out of position.
But I will say this as well. All right, what's the difference between week 1 and week 2? Because I thought week 1 the offense wasn't all that great either.
No, they haven't been.
They made plays.
Yeah.
Your key players, your superstars, made plays week 1. You know,
Holland intimidated.
Holland creating the fumble. You know, Waddle with the long pass, Hill with the long pass, things like that. Your best players yesterday did not show up.
They didn't even know they were on the field.
There was not an impact play among them.
Campbell, no one.
And I'm going to tell you, and this is
Phillips.
They won't admit to it, but Buffalo intimidated them. Good teams intimidate this team. And I keep going back to the mentality. It's like they get in their heads that they can't beat this team or they don't know. I honestly don't think that they fully believe that they can compete with some of these teams. And they get out there and they're just flat. And Richard Sherman said it before the show or before the game. They take on the identity of Tua and he believes that the team's mentality is soft, but it's been that way for years. Philbin, Gase, after Sperano, the team went to, and I don't mean physical, run the ground and pound kind of Jim Harbaugh thing, but I mean, like, they just don't have that toughness to like overcome
There's no eye
and
of the
battle.
tiger. There's no eye
Yeah,
of the
there's
tiger.
like no killer instinct at
No.
all, and there's no.
Oh.
I've always thought Tua lacks that. Period. I mean, some guys have it, but not all.
Like I'm, you know, the team is a reflection of the coach. It's not a reflection
Mhm.
necessarily of the quarterback.
Mhm.
Okay, the team's a reflection of the coach.
Country club.
Yep.
Well, I don't even mind that so much, but when you let guys not practice, okay, when you know, I asked Omar Kelly on a tweet. I was like, somebody should ask McDaniel if he thinks practice is important because he lets all these guys miss practice all the time. Okay, all right. We got Tyreek Hill who takes himself out of plays whenever he wants, I guess. No coach is telling him, no, you get your ass back in there. All right. Waddle does the same thing. And I just don't get it. All right. I don't understand how you just let that happen. How can you not have your two best players on the field on 3rd and 13? Okay. How can that? How can you?
How do you let it happen?
Okay? How do you let it happen?
Because he's not a head coach.
Right.
And that's the part that
I've been saying that for years.
And maybe that's the part I'm finally coming around to.
Thank
Evan,
you.
Is that
I learned from Bret.
You know, I just don't get it. And there were things that happened the first 2 games, and I was in the stadium for both of them that I just don't understand. All right, and we were in the game. I
get it.
We were there. We were in the game, and we were going to match their physicality and everything else, I believe, until that interception. The first interception, and then there was a deflation, and then the second interception, and I can't be the only one sitting in the stands thinking, what the hell? Why is he throwing to these guys? Seriously,
the third interception.
Greg,
what?
did you say by the way, you said the humidity was 85%. How the heck is that guy wearing a hoodie that's thick as this? Like how?
Well, he don't weigh nothing.
I don't know, but still, no. My point is,
no,
it's just unfreaking believable. Like the guy is just. I honestly think he's lost it. Like I actually think he's in denial, and he's on like literally. He's on like what's that? He's literally just going with the flow. He's on like what's that term? I forget the term. But he basically is just going with the motions, but like not realizing the ramifications of it. He's on autopilot.
Go ahead, Greg.
He's lost.
Yeah.
He you know, there were some things that were transcribed from his press conference last night that sounded intelligent and they sounded reasonable when you transcribe them. When you actually hear him say it,
that means he was lost.
It did not sound good at all.
Yeah.
You know, and his press conference last night was really bad. And then he comes on and he gives a whatever it was today, and talking about how we shouldn't be talking about Tua retiring and things like that.
If you
he
care
didn't sound
about
good on that either.
Well, Antonio Pierce said it. The one that made me emotional was Manti Te'o. Like Manti Te'o, who's related, who played in the NFL, basically told him the last time he got concussed, "I want you to stop playing football."
Well, I just talked to people about this. You guys will know what I'm talking about here. Rich Gannon, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, all their careers were ended with concussions. Now, for them, they didn't start really facing symptoms of concussion until later in their careers. But those concussion symptoms lasted longer than a day or two. They lasted a week. Tua's last year, in 2022, when he went out against Green Bay, they said that there were issues with him recovering from it. They weren't lasting, right? And then he went through 23 without one. But the fact that he postured twice, and I'm not knocking him, I'm not making fun of him whatsoever. When I saw his arm stiffen up, I immediately damn.
It's called fencing.
I stopped caring about football. I didn't care about the rest of it. When I saw that, I was like, yep. I said, wow. And he did. again, this was not a hard football shot. And I said it before, DeMar Hamlin almost like slowed up because Tua was giving himself up, almost kind of like not holding him up, but like catching in a sense. Tua really didn't hit him that hard, and DeMar didn't really hit him that hard. DeMar just kind of like this.
Yeah.
And
But
so I'm like, that's scary that he's going to, like, his body, he automatically went to fencing and had a concussion from
I think he was concussed already. You want to know
very
why?
common football hit. There was
Brett,
a
go
video
Brett,
about
go
that.
back and watch the interception, the third
Yeah.
interception. He got tackled by two players and banged his head.
Yeah, it very well could be, but it's still that means that would be his sixth concussion. So it's to the point where it's like it's dangerous, and I'm not going to make the decision for him. But I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh yeah, he should play. It's beyond football. Forget football. All right, real quick story. I met a guy who used to kick for the Giants back in the Parcells days, and he was under there with I think the year they won the Super Bowl. I forgot which year, but anyway, I was talking to him about it, and back then he said they used to kick the hell out of the kickers. They would get hit, all that stuff. He has Parkinson's disease because from CTE. Now he got a check, or he never got a check from the NFL. They only paid like I forgot how many players for over the past that had it. They only paid so many. He gets a stipend every year for his retirement, and that's it. All the medical bills he gets comes out of his pocket what his insurance doesn't cover. Like he has his retirement, and that's it, and they don't even pay it. And I'm talking to them about it, and just listening to them. Talking to people like that really removes you as a fan and puts you in a different perspective as if you were a coach, because you just see things as people, and you stop caring about like the wins and losses so much. And like, hey, that dude wants to retire for his health. Good for you, dude. Go live your life. Or you know what I mean? So like I was talking to him, and he's a great guy. He's cool to talk to, just like one of us. He goes right to my barber right down the street here in Delaware. And I was like, man, it's pretty cool talking to him. And but listen to him, I felt bad for him because he's in his 60s, and he has issues. He has his good times and his bad times. And he actually really respected talking to a fan who understood that the reality of things, where I'm not like, oh, wow, you got to play with Parcells. I got to understand, and he was talking about how much of a jerk Parcells was, and we could talk all day about that. But the reality is that's long-lasting effects that he's dealt with since he was my age, late 30s, and he's in his 60s now.
Yeah.
Tua's in his 20s.
But
is he going to be 50 years old dealing with this?
But Tua's got $120 million not to retire. He's not going to retire.
Well, no, if he's forced to retire,
he gets it all.
All that
if he's
money.
Not medically cleared, he gets it all.
If he's medically cleared and chooses to retire, he could
then he loses it all.
Well, yeah, he gets $43 million, but he can do a buyout. Now, our friend Dave Steger said that he wants to see what kind of person Ross is and say, "We'll pay you to retire." I was like, I doubt he's going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. We got on the Tua topic because I want to focus on the Tua topic. Then I want to talk about a little bit about our defense, and then we'll talk about everyone's favorite topic, which is New Era Golf's number one endorser, Chris Greer. We'll send with that show. But let me ask you, when you saw that play happening, you were at the game, you were watching. When that opened and I saw the way he was running.
Sorry.
I coach hockey also, and I saw him put his head down. I knew he wasn't going to slide. And I go to myself, and Brett, I had said this before. The previous play, he had banged his head. Mm-hmm. I knew he was about to concuss himself. He looked literally like he wanted to go through a wall because he didn't know where the first down marker was. And he was willing to sacrifice his body to play hero football because he had caused 3 interceptions. Had that been a game where he was down because the team was just playing bad, but he didn't throw those 3 interceptions and didn't blame himself for it, he would have slid. I think he was so in his own head, he forgot that, you want to know what? He was literally on autopilot. Also, I have to get this first down. I'm going back to the old Tua. Mm-hmm. And I think right then, I don't think he knew. And by the way, just because he got up and just because he walked to the dressing room doesn't mean he remembers any of this. No. Dan Marino, you ask him about a couple of his games he's played in his career. He doesn't remember them. He was concussed. He doesn't remember.
Troy Aikman said he forgot a game. Yeah. Same thing with Joe Burrow. So,
yeah. So let me ask you, for you guys, do you think, and that's not where I'm medical, do you want Tua from a medical perspective and from us also as a Miami Dolphins fan perspective, because obviously there's a ramification to him coming back with the fear of what might happen again? Will he play gun shy? What? Do you think that he? Let me here. You ask about. Do you think he should? This should be his last game in the NFL. Do you want it to be his last game in the NFL? Ask about two different ways.
I don't think it will be his last game in the NFL, but that doesn't mean I don't think he should really consider it being his last game. If there wasn't $120 million on the table, there'd be a reason for him to walk away. But with that $120 million, he's not going to retire.
Do you want him to?
I for his health, I think he should.
What about as a Miami Dolphins fan? Do you think he's still capable of leading this team to something good?
I will say it this way. He has not shown me he has the ability to win important games or take a team to a Super Bowl. I don't think he hasn't shown it yet. And you know, that's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to see the Miami Dolphins win a Super Bowl. All right. And I have not seen him capable of doing that yet. I have my doubts that we'll ever see it. Does that answer the question?
Yep. So, Brett, you're right. But don't worry, Brett. If you have to go, maybe we'll cut it off at 9:30. That's why I want to cover the other two topics. Go for it.
Honestly, the whole thing. I hope he. Honestly, I think he probably should, because that's twice that it was bad, and it's long term. Money aside, they can come to an agreement to buy him out of his contract in a sense, to where he can still have more than what he's taken. He's already made and signed more than I'll ever make in my lifetime. I think he could live. I'm not saying that jealous when I'm saying that. Like, if I could live off of what I'm making, I'm sure he will live just fine. And I know taking away sucks, but he could also start being the face for the NFL for concussions and maybe like work with that with marketing. But
he'd get a TV job in a heartbeat, and he would
still. People think. By the way, as a human being, he's one of the. He's one of the. We're never questioning him as a person. Yeah. It's his. It's his. For his health and his ability to play
football. And on that note, I don't know that I see him as a guy that's going to win. He's never won in college either. People say, well, national championship game. He didn't start the game. He came in the second half, threw it to a wide open receiver, had a beautiful throw, touchdown, great. But, you know, he lost big moments. He led his team to the championship. But in order to win the SEC, he had to come out of the game. Jalen Hurts had to carry him. Then he got an easy walkthrough with Oklahoma, and then they went to the national championship. And Clemson hit him in the mouth, and he never recovered. And then same thing with LSU that same year. And people say, "Oh, well, I mean, look at the numbers he had. Yeah, too little, too late, and playing from behind when they're playing protect, the lead." So in those games, he was good, but he was never elite, and it never looked like he was going to carry to a championship. So I never saw that level of play from Tua that he could lead us to a championship. Just stat padding. Basically as Matt Schaub.
Okay. So we'll do it pretty quickly. Just let me ask you a very quick question, both of you. Is our defensive scheme and defensive coordinator, even though he's young, is it something that it concerns you right now at all?
Yes.
He's worse than last year? It will end up being worse than last year?
I think he's got less to work with this year, but I also see massive mistakes. All right, and
from a play calling perspective,
from a discipline perspective.
Oh, okay, all
right. Look, Jalen Ramsey has made 2 really bad plays in 2 weeks now. All right, Long has cost them points in both weeks. All right, they don't have a number 3 and a number 4 defensive tackle. Okay.
No. Oh God, they don't even have a number 1, to be honest, unless you're counting Sealer.
No, I think Sealer and Campbell are a pretty good combination. I think 3 and 4 are just not there. They don't have a pass rush. Okay, Phillips was non-existent yesterday. He wasn't there. Ogba didn't do anything. All right, Chop ran around. Chop just ran around. Okay, I love how people think that he had a decent game yesterday because he was making tackles sideline to sideline. He's a defensive end. All right.
That's your job.
What are you doing? Oh, come
He
on.
gave chase, man. What do you mean? He ran around a tackle, was really late getting to Allen before he threw a bomb.
But it just and I honestly I don't trust the secondary whatsoever right now. I don't think Fuller's played well. Cahu is Cater
Fuller's
Cahu
awful.
hasn't played well.
Fuller's a shell of
All
himself.
right,
Yeah.
and Poyer is
80 years old.
he's done.
But what did you say, Greg, before the season? What did you tell me before? You said you worried about the age of this defense. You worried about
They're the oldest team in the league, by the way.
the
They're the oldest team in the
reliability of the older guys. And look, I love Campbell. I think he's done great. It's like in the early games and he disappears. Why? It's not anything to do with him. He's 37 years old.
I was going to say
you
his
have no rotation
grandson's going to be
behind him.
playing in the league if they're pretty quick. All right.
Hey, I'm
Jesus.
37. I mean, I got a cast on my foot from hurting myself on a ladder, and this man's playing football. Like, what did I go wrong in my life here?
Let me ask you guys. So before we get to Greer and the foundation of this team, so Mike McDaniel says he truly believes in Skylar Thompson because Skylar Thompson won a 9-6 elimination game against the Jets and almost got us to winning our first playoff game, even though he wasn't the reason why.
I'm going to say he's not wrong.
No, yeah, right. Do you actually truly believe that Mike McDaniel, because from what I saw, I know it was garbage, the game was over, but from what you saw with Skylar Thompson last night, what you've seen with him the last 3 years, is he is he truly just talking team speak and really, or does he truly believe the fact that he thinks they can win with Skylar Thompson for the next couple of weeks?
Team speak, man. He's after a loss like that to a division rival.
Even
he's
got
to try to get them boosted, and he's got to try to hype it up. And they have believed in Skylar Thompson, so I think he might be delusional, honestly. But they've believed in Skylar from the beginning.
Who would you sign? Who would you both sign?
Tannehill.
No.
Just because I want to watch the world burn.
No. Okay.
Jameis Winston, Jimmy G.
I would trade
honestly,
for if I had to do.
I wouldn't sign any of them. I roll with Skylar. Look, what's the point? All right. For this entire offseason, actually for 2 off seasons, basically we've heard that nobody can run this offense but Tua. Though there's 2 or 3 people who can run this offense other than Tua in the league. All right. Skylar Thompson in training camp and everything else, and yesterday was trying to run the Tua offense. If you're going to try to succeed with Skylar Thompson, basically you got to change. You got to change the offense.
That's what I've always said.
Yeah.
All right. You can't run the same offense.
No.
If McDaniels is willing to do that, and I will say this, okay, in the playoff game in Buffalo, he changed the offense. He ran that regular season with them, basically trying to run what he always runs, and it didn't work. All right. But that playoff game, he actually made some plays. Okay. If you do that again, there's a chance. All right.
Well,
and I'll say it this way as well. It's his 3rd year. You know what? That's a hell of a lot different than being a rookie.
That's true.
So would you go back and get Mike White just as his backup versus?
Dude, we got Tim Boyle, man. Relax, guy.
I would probably go. I think White's on the Buffalo practice.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad. You can go snap him right back
up. So yeah, I think that would be good. And Hunter, are you kidding me? Robert, glad y'all can make it.
Yeah, he did.
So,
well, hold on. I want to talk about that real quick. That's Greg actually hit the point I wanted to hit because it's hard to evaluate a guy who's coming in and they got the game plan for, and the thing that you said, well, only Tua can run this offense. Well, they literally made the offense for Tua, and that's part of the reason that only Tua can run it because it's Skylar Thompson and Tua's skill sets are 2 different things. So it's really just putting a square peg in a round hole. So if McDaniel this is where McDaniel could honestly save his job or save face by taking Skylar and having the offense run with them and not looking back. We'll see what happens, but this is why we wanted a quarterback to upgrade. This is why I was okay with signing or going after Wilson or signing Oh shoot, I forgot his name. There's a lot of
Fields?
guys. Who
Which you want a free agent or trade?
would have been a free agent. Shoot, I forgot where he went.
Jimmy G ended up in the Rams.
Not Jimmy G. It was with the Washington last year.
Taylor
Watched
Heineke or Sam Howell. Sam Howell.
Sam
Sam
Howell.
Howell.
Yeah, I would have been fine with bringing someone like that. Just not even competition, but for someone
Even Matt Jones, I would take.
something.
No, but
Someone with starting experience behind Tua that way. Oh, come right in. I don't trust Skylar, but if Skylar's not that good, you have maybe a top pick in this draft. I don't know.
Yeah.
no, but they wouldn't sign any of those other guys with starting experience because they need to roll over a cap for next year.
That's
Right.
not why.
That's true.
That's
I
not
wanted
what I
Justin
believe.
Fields too.
No, you know what? I truly believe. they
That's
have
nice
not
of Greer
signed-
to set up
No,
a new
I
GM that
truly
way.
believe, before we get to Greer, I truly believe they have not signed a capable backup quarterback because Mike McDaniel did not want to hurt Tua's feelings. I'm actually convinced of that in
I'm
all
sensitive.
seriousness. He doesn't want to hurt his guy's feelings.
Guys, he's a human being.
Exactly. So now because Brett, you would probably have to go in a few minutes, and we've been on for almost an hour and a half. 123 people watching across all the networks. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're having a great time. It's because we're a great combination of the three. Guys, you guys want to have a show? I'm always here for you, two of you. Chris Greer.
Mhm.
The biggest concern right now is that past Waddle and past Hill, they signed they claimed to have known that OBJ was not going to start the season. Why would you sign the guy if you're not going to have him for for the first quarter of the season? The injury prone players. He went from having one of the youngest teams a couple years ago to now the oldest team. So Brett, I'll give you the floor first, and then Greg can go. What is wrong with the overall foundation of this team, and can they recover from this after 2 games, or is it or can the GM finally fix this, or is it really time to just really clean house? Like, is it like at this point, like he's literally been at the head of the ship, and no matter what, he's steering it from above, and it's just not working anymore. The lack of depth on this team of capable talent is unfreaking believable. How awful it is.
I feel like Greg's really sitting there like, all right, let's see how much I've taught you.
So go for
it. But like it's the foundation of it all. Right. I really truly believe they went all in last year, believing that they had the roster to win now, and they had all the ingredients they needed, which is why they were so willing to trade for Chubb and Hill, and maybe they thought because everything they did with Flores that this technically wasn't year 1 with McDaniel, it was year 4 and they were ready to go, and then it didn't work. So like they're ready to have all their chips in the basket last year, and it all fell apart. And now they're like, crap, that's why the transition year. So I think they didn't have the money, and they went short-sighted. Now they're thinking we got to move money around. But it's the old philosophy of the Dolphins too. Let's re-sign guys. Let's extend guys. Let's re-sign guys that are not that great or average players to top money. And then we wonder why we're getting average production. And let's trade for Tyreek because we drafted Waddle instead of Jamar Chase. Let's trade for Chubb because we couldn't find a pass rusher in previous drafts. Let's spend all of our money on Armstead because we whiffed on Austin Jackson by drafting him. And also with Tyreek, it's not just Waddle. What we traded for Tyreek because we didn't get Justin Jefferson. We took Austin Jackson instead. So there's so many misses. And if you go through all of Greer's picks, Liam Eichenberg, we traded up for. Creed Humphrey was sitting right there. Now he's an all-pro center. You had we drafted Channing Tindall. Oh, Leo Chanel went a couple plays later for the Chiefs. But lo and behold, the Chiefs are good. Why? Because Andy Reid and that whole system works. They know what they're looking for. They know how to evaluate. And to the point that people talk about the offensive line, we haven't put enough emphasis on. We put the emphasis on the offensive line. Like they've traded up for Liam Eichenberg. They spent the money on Armstead. They drafted Austin Jackson, who was a second-round pick in the first round. So they spent all this picks and energy on that's 3 picks or money, a day 1 pick and a day 2 pick, all in the offensive line right there, right? 3 out of your 5 offensive linemen, and all of them were like not that great. Armstead's always beat up. Jackson, it's because they make the wrong picks as well, and they don't find the right guys, and I don't know if they just don't understand who's a good player, but if you go through all of Greer's picks, all the way from 16 to now, you will find every single pick there was someone who was clearly better or it was like even when it was a good pick, it wasn't the best pick. Justin Simmons and Wilkins, to this day, you can say, well, maybe, I liked Wilkins, but maybe Justin Simmons was the better, or not Justin Simmons, Simmons from the Titans. Maybe he was the better player at that same position because he could rush the pass a little bit better. So there's just and then of course getting it wrong with Tua. If you got it right at quarterback, all of these things might have been okay. Like somebody had pointed out here, Hunter pointed out, you put all those quarterbacks in Miami situation, they're winning the Super Bowl or at least competing for it. I mean, there's a real good possibility that with this team, the way it sits, they could have won already, but they might not have needed to do all that. I just think the overall philosophy and how they do things, even though now they're focusing on premium positions over interior offensive line and linebacker in the drafts and stuff, they're still going after the wrong players. Like passing on Brian Thomas this year for Chop Robinson, to me, I still think was a failure. That's where I sit with the whole thing with Greer. Plus, and then not having a true plan, and then to me just blaming, well, it was Flores' fault. It was Tannenbaum's fault. Well, I need Tannenbaum out of the way. Well, that Flores was in my way now. Now I got McDaniel. Well, whose fault is it now? It's nobody's fault. It just, to me, Stephen Ross relied on the wrong person because Bobby Greer one day found Tom Brady and his son happened to go work for the Dolphins. That Parcells ended up getting hired in years later. And then promotes him, and that nepotism has bit us in the ass ever since. Thanks a lot, Parcells.
Yeah,
Greg.
I think Greer's going to get extended. I half joked about it last night on your guys' call or your show, Evan and Bobby. It would not surprise me because that's how weird this organization is right now.
Sperano, Philbin, they all got extension before they got fired. It's weird.
You know, this season is trending down. I think we can kind of see that, right?
Yeah, we're seeing
injury
it
at quarterback and stuff like that, right? We have old players hurt, which is not surprising, right? I think they're going to come out and make a statement. They're going to extend them and say, look, we got our GM extended, our head coach extended, our quarterback, we got our two best wide receivers. Look at the stability that we have moving forward. The stability, and the reason why Miami hasn't had stability in all these years is because every time they try to, it sucks. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not stable if you're not winning. Okay?
Yeah.
You haven't won a playoff game. You haven't won a playoff game this century. Okay, but no, I don't know what to do anymore. All right, with Greer, I really don't. Yeah, they're not going to fire him. I don't think. And
doesn't Ross really want to win? Or he really doesn't think he can? At 80-something years old, yes, he wants to sell part of his team now, but he does want to have the sexiest offense. He does want to win. Like, does he really want to put up with this nonsense?
In his defense, he's put butts in seats. Greg said it was electric, and at the stadium, and he's selling tickets.
Boo, but they're here to boo.
Hope sells,
but
they still bought tickets.
But honestly, there's always an excuse. Okay, there's always an excuse you can feed Ross. And until Ross does something about it, and look, Stephen Ross has been great for the Miami Dolphins. The stadium is phenomenal. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
The concessions are insane. What they're ripping people off at those concessions.
That's all of them now.
That's a bottle of water. That commemorative cup he's holding. That's for $15 now.
Yes, and the one yesterday that I bought was, but I was able to use my season ticket pass holder, so I got it for like $12. But anyway,
for a Coke, it's ridiculous.
But the stadium's great, the parking's great. He's not afraid to put money into it. He's paying guys. All right, that's what I want my owner to do. But the football people have just let him down, and I think Chris Greer is one of them. And last year it was injuries. This year, the year before it was Tua getting concussed. This year it's going to be Tua getting concussed and injuries.
There's 4 injuries yesterday. Jeff Wilson, Robert Jones, Tua, and Teron.
Yes.
Well, Teron left because he was getting his shoulder thing adjusted or
He's
whatever.
yeah, but he announced today that he won't. It's not season ending, but he's going to miss a lot of. He's going to miss quite a bit of time.
Yeah. So I
Just in
mean,
case you missed that, I'm not kidding.
What a valuable signing.
I just. I'm like I said, I'm 50-50 on this, 50 parts serious and 50 parts just being an ass because that's what I tend to be. All right. It would not shock me if he got an extension.
That I
They
think
might burn down the stadium. At this
I told
point.
somebody before. I said sometimes I feel like when they do these extensions, it's almost like a refinance. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to pay this money anyway, but I'm gonna fire you, and I'm just gonna pay you that money over a few years, and it's less hit on my books every year or something because it doesn't make any sense.
But the big thing I have against Greer, all right, is his drafts hardly ever matter.
No.
Yeah,
The year they're drafted, they get 2 years ago. All right, when Kansas City beat Philadelphia, at one point in the Super Bowl, okay, there were 5 rookies on defense for Kansas City in that Super Bowl. 5 different rookies played on that defense in the Super Bowl and contributed. Okay, when's the last time Miami had 5 rookies contribute on the field in a year ever?
Never.
Okay,
2020, I think that was might have been.
all right, you can't.
They had
All
no
right.
one else to play.
It was like 3 offensive linemen, so it doesn't really count. But still,
But their first round pick's not doing much. All right, their second round pick is another offensive lineman who can't get on the field for supposedly an offensive line that's really bad. He's a second round pick, right? The running back saw 3 or 4 carries yesterday.
yeah,
And the only reason why that is because Jeff Wilson was nicked up. All right.
and Mostert, yeah.
Okay. Your wide receiver can't get on the field. All right. You have a couple undrafted free agents who aren't making you any better. I mean, and it's just like that year after year after year after year. I actually looked up and I was like, I'm trying to figure out when's the last time a Miami Dolphin player, rookie, was up for the rookie of the year, either offensively or defensively.
Never.
Waddle was the closest thing that we had, and he
Yeah, and he was like 5th.
Yeah, and he broke the
that year.
record for Anquan Bolden
Yes.
receptions in a season. He did have an extra year or extra game, but he only played 16 games that year.
But it's been that bad. You know what I mean?
Okay, but that was a Flores pick too.
It's just
Achan, that was McDaniel stomping or pounding the table for him. Greer said no. He took Cam Smith, which that was a great pick, and then they got him the next round. Real quick, McDaniel's picks that he's picked for the most part have hit better than Greer's picks have. Like
whose pick was Chop Robinson? Because my
Chop
buddy
Robinson, I'm pretty sure that has Chris Greer written all over it.
Because by the way, a buddy of mine who's the big Bucks fan, trust me, he is beyond the word pleased that he has Graham Barton as his center. Because you want to know what all these star teams you know who snapped last year? I wanted Tyler Lindenbaum as one of our picks. Who's snapping the ball to Lamar Jackson on every play?
Yeah, well, that's because now that you want to talk about a team that drafts very well. There you go.
But
although
by the way,
they don't do receiver very well, but they have a core.
They don't do running back well either. Because by the way, I want to say this early in the show. You talk about the running game, let them run.
Mm-hmm.
The Kansas City Chiefs did not deserve to be 1-0. John Harbaugh completely they signed Derrick Henry, and in that game one, that was one of the most poorest uses of a running back that is a running back I've ever seen in my life.
Plus, I stopped calling Lamar Jackson running back. Sea Devil, good point that you brought that up. Robinson was because of pass rushing injuries. Yes, and that there lies a problem with me for Greer is constant drafting for need.
Not best player.
He got panicked. One of the offensive line traded up for Liam Eichenberg. And it's because he was looking for a tackle. And Eichenberg's not even – he shouldn't even be –
He wants to be a right guard.
But at the same time, Chop Robinson's not a terrible talent at all. But again, it's just based on what could be. And sometimes you draft that way, you draft for the future. I agree. But it made sense to the pick. But Brian Thomas would have been a much better pick. And it was just – it's reaching. And same thing with
Xavier Worthy would have been a better pick.
So that's just
Worthy
my
would have been a
opinion
better
there.
pick. Imagine Xavier Worthy as your 3 this last night.
But Sea Devil, thank you actually for bringing it up because that actually brought into the good conversation. Greg, I know you want to say something there.
Go ahead.
Well, again, Miami doesn't get immediate impact out of the rookie class on almost any draft. Okay, there are rookies.
Except Waddle.
Well, there's Waddle in there. There's one or two here or there every now and then. But out of a full class or out of multiple players or something like that, it just doesn't happen. And then the production that they get is.
They were there when they picked the 21.
They were there for both. Both were there.
Yeah, it was like
They're
mid.
trying to move back into the first to get them. I think that's what he's saying.
Again, the players that are actually on the field for Miami as rookies and playing aren't producing at a high enough level to really get noticed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's frustrating because I watch all the good teams get rookie contributions. And Miami hardly ever gets that.
And I think it's because of their talent assessments are correct.
Well,
more times than they're not. Or more
I think they look at athletic ability and potential over actual playing ability. They for a second round pick offensive tackle in today's football to not even be considered a backup.
You mean Miami looks at?
Yeah,
talk about Miami looks at athleticism over.
Yes.
Okay, if I say that doesn't make any sense. Okay, no, all right, yeah, I agree.
Right? Because
they look at what could be.
Yeah, I mean,
one pick here and there, I understand that why you would do that, but almost every pick is that way.
That's almost every pick, and you can't have a roster full of guys, who are developing. You got to have players. You don't have enough people. You don't have enough spaces. You don't have, 53. You can't have 3, draft classes worth of developing players on it.
He almost drafts like he's drafting for hockey or baseball or that has a minor league. Where it's because that style of drafting makes a ton of sense.
Even basketball with G League, right?
Yeah, that's how the Yankees and these good teams, they're farmland. They have that guy's got a potential. We'll build him down here.
Why do you think the Orioles are so good right now?
Well, yeah, Orioles do that a lot. Actually,
the Rays do the same thing.
Yeah, so but you get you look at the football, you don't have that, and your practice squad doesn't do that. Your window is smaller in football because of the physicality of the game, and I just don't think.
Tell us who, Miss Finns. We love Miss Finns.
I love
Finns,
it.
tell me who the problem is. Say it.
But
don't hide it because we talked about everybody today. We love Miss
Greg.
Finns.
You and I have been on the same page about this and about their philosophy, and I learned a lot from your perspective because you remember when we first started having conversations. I was a big fan of. Well, I supported Greer because I thought the idea was good, and even the point of tearing the team down to the studs to rebuild it. That was also a foolish philosophy too. He went overboard, and the whole thing with the athleticism.
He didn't hire the right coach.
Well, and that's his fault. But even then, I still don't think Brian Flores was the wrong coach. I just don't.
Brian Flores wanted to win.
Yeah,
Mike McDaniel would have been the right coach at that point, not Brian Flores.
You know what? You have a point. But real quick, the only point I want to bring up, Pete Carroll is one of the guys that Greer worked with in New England, and he has explosion scores that he used to do back in the day. Pat Kerwin used to talk about that, and a lot of it was based on athleticism. But a lot of it had to do with on the field production too, and could you actually perform on the field? They would draft projects here and there, but you still had to perform. Where I think Greer didn't fully understand that, and this is our philosophy. I'm going to add into it, and it just doesn't work for him because he doesn't have the rest of that formula to figure it out.
Yeah. So, I organizationally for Miami, okay. Their best players on the field tend to be, the majority of them are free agents.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Or they trade for them.
Or they trade for them.
Yeah.
They're not homegrown. They're all right. They'll use the draft to do that and things like that. All right.
100%.
When that's your philosophy, and when you have to buy that talent, okay,
right.
it basically limits you, all right, because NFL teams win on cheap talent, okay, and cheap
Yeah.
talent comes from the draft, all right, and and for Miami to basically take the next step, to start winning playoff games and be considered a championship caliber team, in my opinion, you need to stack drafts with talented, immediate impact players. Okay, over three drafts, you need 10 of those. And Miami struggles to find two or three over
We have
three
tons of
drafts.
picks next year. You're going to trust Greer to do that next year?
Well, but that was the thing.
If
All
the
right,
first
we
round
had
pick-
those ton of picks during the tank. We had all of those picks.
Yeah.
And what do we do with them?
Nothing.
Okay, and basically we got Tua and we got Waddle, and then
Jalen Phillips and Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips. But you know what? And people are going to hate on me for this.
He's not consistent.
He's not all pro.
Oh.
All right,
He's a nice player.
He's a nice player. Okay, he has potential again. Okay, but he's a nice player. You need Pro Bowl caliber players, and we just don't draft them. We really don't, and that's why we're in the morass that we're in, and until we draft players. Look, when Seattle was contending for the Super Bowl, okay, look at the three drafts that included Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman, and those things. Look at those three drafts. They are something.
Yeah.
All right. You look at the drafts that Kansas City's on right now, on their run. That was something. Okay.
And they pick late. And they pick late.
And they contribute, and they got all these guys who are doing this kind of stuff.
Xavier Worthy contributed perfectly in the first game of the season.
Yep. That's true.
I got
right away.
I got like Xavier Worthy as my offensive rookie of the year at like plus 2,200. So I'm sort of rooting for him. But no, until they draft better, we're going to be like this. All right. And I don't know. This week, Chris Gear gets extended. That's how I'm going to.
Let me ask you guys something before we go.
I don't see it. I hope not. God, I hope not.
I hope not either. Guys, I appreciate everyone for watching. But I had a quick question. So, guys, final question of the night before we head out. We've been on for almost an hour, almost 2 hours. It's been great. We're going to keep doing this. Can this team, if Tua misses, let's say Tua comes back in 4 weeks, let's say a month, or comes back after the bye, can Mike McDaniel, with Skylar Thompson and the team that they have now, somehow get out of this with 500? Can they get to, with Seattle and with New England and with Tennessee before the bye, and then maybe one more game after the bye? Can they be at 500 in 5 weeks? Can they, or can they actually survive?
I think they can win 1 or 2 games over the next 4 weeks with Skylar.
Bret,
man, I'm saying the max one. I was bringing up the schedule, looking at who they have. Let's see. Hold on. I'll give you one.
They have Seattle, then they have Tennessee, then they have New England.
Yes.
Before the bye, and after the bye, it's Indianapolis.
And to be honest with you, I don't know what we're getting with New England right now. We only see them one game.
They have a defense. They lost Judon, and they looked amazing last week.
Yeah, and they still got Seattle's tough. That's it on the road. Don't see that. Titans get revenge on the Titans. Prime time. I say one game they win. I don't think it's gonna be pretty at all.
Miami has enough really good players that they can make plays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you're going to need them to step up. All right.
Yeah.
You're going to need Waddle and Hill to catch some deep passes. You're not going to be able to drive, things like that. But you know what? Just put Hill on a fly and tell Skylar Thompson to throw it as far as you can and say, Hill, you're the number one player in the NFL. Make a play.
Yeah.
All right. Jalen Ramsey, cover somebody and intercept the pass. All right.
Everybody got extended. Make a play.
Yeah, everybody got extended. Let's make some plays.
Everybody looking to get paid. Phillips, Holland, go make a play.
Yeah, exactly.
Earn it. Like someone's going to pay you.
What about Eichenberg? Eichenberg's in a contract year.
Billy Phillips and Holland.
But, no, but if McDaniel forces
to the extend Greer, why not?
Imagine Eichenberg.
Extend my depression.
Wouldn't that be amazing if they announced it because they're worried about the right guard spot? They've seen enough from Eichenberg. They extend them now.
Guys, thanks to you with the thought of Eichenberg and Greer being here beyond this year, I'm calling my therapist.
If McDaniel changes the offense to suit some of the things that Skylar can do,
he does. I don't think he couldn't do it with Bridgewater. He couldn't do it with Skylar 2 years ago. Do you actually think he can actually? Is he stubborn? Does he literally have the ability to not be stubborn about it and actually adjust?
I think he can. I'm hoping he can because there's no way he's going to be able to run Tua's offense. There's just not. And
too inaccurate for that.
I don't think he's dumb enough to say do what Tua did. I don't think McDaniel's dumb. Like, he's too smart to say, "Why can't you run this? Just run it like that, so we don't have to change it." I think I think he will adjust, and they had the time to do it, a week and a half to do it too. Don't forget that.
Well, and the other thing is, all right, the other thing
true.
is,
Kurt Angle.
if McDaniel can get the play in fast enough and tell Skylar where to throw the ball, there's a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you have to do.
Hey, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Nick Foles. Okay. I thought they were done.
The Bears got to the Super Bowl with freaking Rex Grossman,
and they
Right.
I mean, of course, they had an all-time great defense, but
doesn't matter. They made it with Rex. Okay, I always remember this. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Trent freaking Dilfer made it to a Super Bowl.
Definitely different era.
And they scored 34 points in that Super Bowl.
Sheesh.
Hey, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl too. Anyone can win a Super Bowl, right?
By those rules, yes.
Anyways, any final words from the two of you? You know you guys are tired, probably.
No, I'm just, I'm still upset over yesterday. It's going to take me. It's going to take me a little bit. The big thing right now is that they just don't look prepared. And
see, Devil, thank you. he said it just what Skylar time.
Yeah. Cheers from Manchester, England. What's up, Virgil? Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's read this, guys. When I stayed in New York City, I had the misfortune of staying at the Jane Hotel in Greenwich Village. Apart from the bed bugs, nice room, but the heat was unbearable. I had to have a window. I want to know there was a giant flying to see my bed. Anywho, I slipped on the what
is this?
This isn't football.
Although,
wait, are they talking about a Jets hotel? Oh,
maybe. You were saying, Greg?
No, they just need to be better prepared, and the lack of preparation these first 2 weeks has really been glaring to me. And as a former coach, I just don't understand it. I really don't. How basic the offense was, how they weren't attacking, how they basically let the defense dictate them both games, in my opinion, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, agreed.
Brett?
I think the writing's on the wall for this team. I think that they were exposed through the end of last year. I think that we're starting out with the defense adjusting and not having any answers for it. And, with your starting quarterback going out, not that Tua looked great. Skylar has not looked great either. And this is why we all wanted a better caliber backup. But, this is what we got. And, at this point, we'll see what happens if or when Tua comes back. And I don't have a lot of faith in the season. And even though this doesn't surprise me that this team wasn't built to compete and still wasn't built to compete with Buffalo, it still is frustrating. And to be honest with you, I don't want to take any victory laps, and I don't want to sit there and say, "See, I told you Greer's not good." I'm welcoming everybody who wants to put pressure on the team because that's what we need. The fans to put pressure on the team to say, "I'm tired of this," and I actually am heartbroken for the fans that have just like put all that energy out there. It's like, yeah, we're gonna win. This is the year. This is the year. This is the year. Season tickets, and this is the crap we're dealing with.
And they're going to get their season ticket invites in about 2-3 weeks, asking them to pay an additional 50% for next year.
And it's like, thanks for the crappy product that we've always been watching and getting embarrassed on prime time. Thanks. And then so like I feel for everybody who like was believing in this and because that's what fans do, and it's okay. And I just like I don't like seeing like this team doing the same crap. And to the media, that guys that you try to put the nonsense, didn't want to listen to anybody and shame anybody who didn't. Shame on you.
And I'll say it right here on the show. I contacted my my rep at the Miami Dolphins and told them I'm not interested in season tickets next year. So we're going to probably move out of the state of Florida. That was one of the things, but I thought about keeping them. My frustration has hit a point where
you're done with Florida.
Well, I'm probably done with Florida. Yeah. So I might be bi-coastal here coming up here in a little bit, but
Okay.
I'm always going to be a Dolphin fan. I'm going to go continue to see games, but I'm just not going to do the season ticket thing anymore.
I don't blame you.
I don't blame you. It's very expensive. But no, one thing I will say, the thing that made me sad about today, besides Tua, is the fact that because of what happened to Tua, the narrative, the focus of today's game, of everyone today should have been about the Miami Dolphins. And because of what happened to Tua, it masked the fact that the Dolphins need to be exposed for the frauds that they've been the first 2 games of this season. And unfortunately, it's more about the pity party for the Miami Dolphins and feeling bad for us. We don't want people to feel bad for us. I want to get knocked in the mouth. I want these players to be realized that how underperforming, how poor they have been, and how bad they've been this season, and how they have to get up. But right now, it's all that they're in their feelings. Week 1, they almost lost. Oh, they would have blamed that on Tyreek Hill and being detained, and Calais Campbell and Jonnu Smith. This week, it's now about Tua. Enough with I understand these things happen, but enough with the excuses. You're still a football team, and you have absolutely no excuses. Right. Absolutely. Oh, let me correct. He's not dropping the Dolphins. I'm telling you right now, and I will defend Greg. It is very expensive. If I go to a game, I live in Montreal, Canada. Yes, I have a place in Florida. I'm fortunate with my family that we've had a place there a long time. I could fly on points. It'll cost me $100 to rent a car or to travel or stay in a hotel to go to a game. Even if you drive there, to get gas, to go pick up stuff, to buy something there, because you can't bring the food in. You have to have everything in your clear bag. It's an expensive endeavor. Just if you season tickets, you're probably going to spend $50-$60 on your own easy inside the stadium when you're there. It's very expensive for what it is. And if you're not getting a great product, it's not worth keeping. We're all great fans. I'm in Montreal. Bret is in Delaware. We're all Dolphin fans. You could be anywhere and be a fan. You don't have to be physically in the stadium to be a fan.
Yeah, and the last comment real quick is right that rinse, wash, and repeat. Yeah, I mean, same thing over and over. Yeah. It sucks. It does. That's where we're at.
So I want to thank Evan and Bret. Let me rant this morning, or at the beginning of the show.
I was quiet.
I've been looking forward to this all day, Greg.
I love it.
Like, I have not had a fired up Greg. I'm like, yes, let's do this.
So my wife, I think she tried to give me, sneak me a couple of Valium, and I was like, I need a couple shots of whiskey and a Red Dog, or something like that to get in this thing. But I am. Thank you guys for letting me do that, and let's do this again. I had a great time.
Anytime, guys. I'll be honest with you guys. Guys, the bandwagon jumps on whenever it needs to. We have the pregame show, the postgame shows. You guys are welcome on those shows too. If ever you're not at the games, or you guys want to jump on. We're just having a lot of fun on the Finns Talk Sports Network. That's the thing about us. We don't just focus on just one specific topic, because that's the popular topic. Right. We dig in, we analyze, we do our homework. We really care about this team. We're football fans, we're sports fans, and that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I learn from these two, and we all learn from each other, and that's what's most fun about it.
Oh yeah.
It's most fun. And again, thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody for commenting. Sorry we couldn't Sorry we couldn't mention everybody, but yeah, it was
but
great.
we throw everyone's comments. I always make sure everyone's comments down. So, guys, we have a week and a half off. We have time to relax. Hopefully, we'll learn more about what's going on over the next couple of days with Tua and with the Miami Dolphins, because it's going to be a very long 9 days. Because also our fantasy teams are getting crushed. No Christian McCaffrey, no this, no that. It's really been a rough start to Survivor. Like all these Survivor pools, Cincinnati killed everybody. Maybe, by the way, the only person who's as delusional as Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer is Jamar Chase, thinking that the best team in the AFC is the Cincinnati Bengals. That is beyond my comprehension. And this is a guy who hasn't been signed to a contract yet by his team because he has the cheapest owner in the league, right? So, anyways, guys, I appreciate everybody. Thank you, Bret. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like, subscribe, and always fins up.
Fins up.